This whole sweater pattern writing process started a while ago when I got this vintage sweater that I loved so much that I decided to copy it, and I knit up this sweater. I really enjoy this sweater, but there were some issues, so I decided to knit up another version. While there were still some things that I wanted to tweak, I decided that I was ready to dive into writing my first ever graded or sized knitting pattern. I've written knitting patterns before, but they were usually direct translations of antique patterns that don't typically require exact sizing. I needed to really dive into what writing a knitting pattern consists of. As far as I understand it, it's writing up a pattern version, editing it yourself, going through and checking and making sure it's okay, sending it to a tech editor, so someone who is experienced. You send it out for other people to check it. I have been nervous for a very long time about making my first sized knitting pattern, so I put it off for a long time until I finally decided I have to do it this time. So if you haven't guessed it by now, the knitting pattern for this cardigan, which I've named the Mohn Cardigan, which is the German word for poppy seed, is live and available down below now. And if you're interested, let's go through the process that it took for me to start with a vintage cardigan and end up with a graded knitting pattern. So let's go back to when I first knit the first copy of my vintage sweater and how we started this whole pattern writing process. Step one, and this is, if you've seen the video where I made the copy, this might seem a little out of order. I kind of had to do a lot of this stuff at the same time, but that is to take these notes that I wrote down while I was knitting it, but I wasn't at my computer, and transfer them over so that they make sense. Let's transfer this information into my computer. I'm just looking at my notes and everything I've attached to my cardigan, and I did not write down what I did for the back. And it's not just knit straight up, but I can read my knitting. Here we are. It's my first one. I'm learning. I'm trying. So let's read the knitting and I can get the back panel written up. Okay, so the pattern as I've written it is now, or like as I've knit this first sweater, is now on the spreadsheet, and I need to edit a few things. So right now the sweater is wider in the back than it is in the front, and that is not how it should be, and I notice it's too tight across my bust. So I'm going to add width in the front of the bust. I also really don't like doing the afterthought button band. You know, I was recently watching a video by Kudavakika, and she does a button band that is vertical but in ribbing. I might use that style button band instead. I'll have to look into it. I have sometimes used a button band to make a piece fit better. Sometimes it's either a little too wide at the front or a little too tight in the front, and so I can make the button band like a little wider or a little thinner just to eke out that final adjustment. So it's nice to do the button band at the end. It's time to start resizing the pattern so that this is wearable by people that aren't just my exact same size. And how is this done? Well, I did some research, and a lot of modern knitwear designers use modern knitting pattern sizing charts, and there's amazing free ones available in extended size ranges, some that you have to pay for. I basically took as many as I could find and I put them together in a spreadsheet. And then I also went back to my vintage pattern. I have bought original vintage knitting patterns in extended sizes, so I back calculated from the gauge and stitch counts throughout the entire sweaters that the patterns are for, what measurements at which point. So like, what was a bust measurement, shoulder to underarm, arm side length, arm length, waist, hip, so I can get a better idea of how vintage patterns did their sizing. And I also have quite a few vintage knitting books that admit themselves that they have a limited size range available, so if you need to resize their patterns, they also have sizing charts and tips on how to do that. So I put all of that next to each other in a spreadsheet to get an idea of maybe taking some of the vintage sizing ideas, but applying modern sizing and grading charts as well to make sure that I'm not making something that is
maybe gonna slide off of people's shoulders or pinch in the underarm, or all of the fit problems that I have heard that some people get when they try to resize vintage knitting patterns. Okay, so at this part of the process, I knew that I needed to find someone else to help me look over the numbers. So I needed a knitting pattern tech editor. From what I understand, they are someone who is experienced or has taken courses and classes in how to calculate the measurements, stitch counts, row counts, pattern counts, sizing, grading, wording, clarity of a knitting pattern. So it's a second set of experienced eyes who looks over your pattern and makes sure at the very basic level that your math makes sense. And well, you'll see, but my sleeves, I found a wonderful tech editor. Her name is Whitney, and oh boy, did we have quite a back and forth on the sleeves. But yeah, when I was starting out the process, we met for the first time to start getting the pattern ready for a test knit.
I didn't know how long it would take for me to find a tech editor for this pattern. This is the first time I'm designing something that has different sizes. So I have been really nervous to design something like this because I want it to fit people. I want people to go through my pattern and have it be a joy to make and not frustrating. I do want to do a full tech edit for this pattern, and I want to run a pattern test. I don't know what I'm doing. This is all really new to me. I never feel like I'm in any position to do pattern grading because I don't know what I'm doing, even though I've taken a class and I have, I don't know how many books. So I think it's just time to dive in and give it my best shot so that the tech editors can take a look at my math and my thoughts. I just want this to be the best it can possibly be. I think I need to get comfortable with my anxiety and my fear a little bit, but I have resources. We just have to get to a point where we can let people help us. So let's do this part and then we can ask for the input. Okay, it is now just past 11 o'clock and I've finished my first pass. It would be nice if at the end of the day tomorrow I had a pattern that I could potentially hand off to a tech editor, because it would be nice if by the end of the week I can start the test knit. I should have started this sooner, but my anxiety got the best of me and I avoided it for a long time. Let me look at my schedule and everything we have planned and things that I'm committed to, and let's see where we can go from there. So I'm going to sit down and I'm going to fully write the pattern today. The things that will be missing from this pattern are going to be yarn amounts. We're going to talk about how I'm going to do that in a little bit. Then it'll go to tech editor and then it'll go to test knitters. Cross your fingers for me. Let's do this. So we are multiple hours later and I have written up everything I can, I think, for tonight for the knitting pattern. I'm hoping to get this out to the tech editor by Friday.
2 hours later.
Oh no! Some things got messed up in my tables. I knew it was a risk. The sleeves are the last thing that I worked on, and as I get closer and closer to the evening when I'm sick, I feel worse. I did the increases wrong on my pattern for the sleeves, so I'm gonna take a look at this work, and now we get to frog it. So that's fun. I'm assuming that many of you here are a part of the knitting world, or you have been for a while. So you are probably familiar with a lot of terms, but if you're not familiar with it and you ever wondered why it was called frogging, when you frog, or like when you make a mistake, you rip your pattern back. You rip your work back, you ribbit, ribbit, ribbit. And at least in English, when you say ribbit, that's the sound a frog makes. The other thing that you can do, if you're not taking it off the needles, but instead you're working backwards, so you're using your needles to unknit your work, I always thought it was the sound that your needles were making when you click them together when you're doing that is the reason why it's called tinking. But tink is actually knit backwards. So you're knitting it backwards to knit it back off your needles. 2 fun facts you might not have known. Okay, I'm gonna undo this. I'm gonna make a big note for myself to recheck the sleeves. Oh, the sleeves are my biggest worry point anyway. I'll see you tomorrow morning. Cross your fingers that I feel better. I am so done with being sick.
The next morning.
Good morning. We're going to do 2 things today. One is double check what's going on with the sleeves. And then I am going to figure out how much yarn I need.
Before going into a test knit, I really needed to be sure that the yarn yardage calculations were ready. I looked up some resources, but I found most comfortable doing the method of weighing the sample sweater I had knit already, the copy, calculating how many stitches were in that sweater so I knew the weight of every one single knit stitch, and then I calculated the stitch counts for every other size and multiplied the weight per stitch by the stitch count. And that's how I went from weight to yards. So in case you're wondering, that's how the yardage is estimated from that. And of course I added wiggle room.
Okay, so the yarn yardage estimates are done. The sleeve charts are fixed. But basically I'm gonna give the pattern one more read through and then I'm gonna send it off to the tech editor. I'm sure it's gonna come back with a ton of marks all over it, but that's what I want. I need someone else to give it a clear look over, especially someone who has any experience with grading. Don't mind the literal stick of butter on my plate on my desk. We are going to send off pattern for tech editing. Okay, I'm gonna do it. Just hit send. Oh, I'm the worst with emails. I don't know. It's so hard for me sometimes. Okay, here we go. Just do it. Just send. Send. I did it. It's sent for tech editing. Okay, so we're good to go for now. I think I need to start putting on my needles a version of this sweater that 100% follows the pattern that I've written. Do I have the time to knit 2 whole sweaters in like 3 weeks? While doing other stuff. Because I'm doing this simultaneously to all the other things that I'm doing and preparing for Craftmas. If only I didn't have to sleep and I had like 4 more sets of arms.
1 week later.
So it's been a bit since I've updated you on the process of writing a knitting pattern and how that's going. I got the first draft back from my tech editor and basically the response was everything's great until you start at like the armholes and sleeves and then things just go really sideways with the grading and the stitch counts and everything. So I spent a lot of heads down time regrading and rewriting this armholes and the sleeves. That is back out to Whitney, my tech editor. But the other thing that's happened that's been nuts and so wonderful is the test knit has started. Put the call out for that earlier this week and I had so many generous people offer to sign up to help me with that. So it is currently live. I can't tell you, like I'm getting sweaty palms. I am so nervous. I want it to go well. I don't want it to be a waste of their time. I don't want it to be frustrating. You know what I mean? Like I want it to be a joyful thing. I'm nervous. I have a lot of anxiety. I have a lot of pressure on myself and I really want it to go well. Let's go to the computer and let's look at, I got some notifications this morning that I had some comments and some questions, so I'm gonna go answer that from the test knit and see if we have some more answers from some questions that came up yesterday. So I think the last time I updated, I was still visiting my parents' house. Hi, Nutella. And I had just chatted about how I am so grateful for all of the test knitters that are working on reviewing my pattern for me and going over the pattern, but it's difficult for me because I struggle with that. Nutella's making the couch again. I feel like she knows when I'm anxious and she either comes onto my lap to try to make me feel better or she does something silly. Feeling like I'm disappointing people or letting people down or that I've promised something that I'm not able to deliver. And it feels like my logic brain tells me that I've done the work that I could, but it still feels like I am disappointing people and I'm letting people down, even though I know that they've signed up to help me, hopefully, I think is the point. It's just, but I am now catching up on chats and like answering questions and things, and I'm going to need a shower after this. I'm dripping sweat from the anxiety that I have at the moment. I'm nearly done going over the messages and suggestions. It's hard to say exactly why I wanted to include this. It's just, I think I just wanted to share with you some more of the reality, at least for me, of pattern designing and what that feels like.
So yeah, the anxiety, I think, of starting the test knit was very real, as you probably heard. I was very excited, and one of the ways to amplify the excitement of that was I actually decided to schedule a knit and chat call with my test knitters. So that was really fun. We did a few over the course of the test knit, and it was just great to meet people who were working on my projects, see what they were doing, chat about life and everything knitting and non-knitting related, and crafting and creativity. That was just, what a wonderful community experience. I hope you all enjoyed that as well. But that was, I think, a huge plus of the test knit.
Great to see somebody in here. Just relaxing. Oh, right. Oh, that's awesome. So much fun meeting everyone. I mean, we just chatted about anything because we met for like 2 hours and we knitted together. It's great to meet everyone, got some good insights on the cardigan as well. No, I made some good progress on my cardigan as well. I messed up the last row, so I think I have to go back and fix that a little bit. This is happening. We are 2 weeks away from the launch, so we better start getting our ducks in a row for all of this.
So yeah, as I alluded to in the beginning, when I did the first tech edit with Whitney, she was like, "Girl, what is going on with your sleeves?" I struggle with the sleeves so much when I was first writing at the pattern. Whitney came back and just gave me a bunch of resources on how to redo the sleeves. I redid the sleeves, but I think I overdid it because before they were way too huge. But once a lot of my test knitters hit the sleeve pattern, it turned out it was looking very narrow. And I had a bit of a dilemma on what to do at this point because we were starting to get crunched with time, but I also didn't want a pattern that didn't fit.
We're less than 2 weeks away from the supposed pattern launch, and I don't think I can release the pattern like this. It's just not going to fit correctly. It's too tall and too narrow once we get to the armholes. There is quite a bit of back and forth on the sleeve section and how the sleeves are written up impact how the body happens from the like armpits up basically. I'm seeing some people knit up the pattern and I am getting to the point where I am nearly knit up with this version of the body as well, and can you just see that? Like that armhole is ginormous. The thing is, I know I can fix it. I just feel awful about the pattern testers who have spent so much time testing it up to this point, knitting it up to this point where I'm realizing that the shaping is just not correct. Either they're going to have a sweater, I mean, it stretches to fit, right? But it just distorts the pattern, or they're going to have to undo all of their knitting. I am really thankful though, because it means that I'm able to fix the pattern. The pattern is fixable, but it's just very upsetting that we have a group of people who have invested that much time into it. So I think I'm going to make an announcement now to the pattern testers because there's some of us who haven't yet gotten to that point, so I'll let them know. And I think what I'll do is I'll rewrite those sections of the pattern. I guess you could say I'm learning a lot, and I think if I ever want to do this again, we just have to give ourselves way more time, just a lot more time. Yeah, I'm really sorry, and let me go fix it now so we don't have any more people struggling with it.
So now at this point we are less than 5 days to go to pattern release. I have a video tutorial that I want to release with a pattern that I need to film, edit, and release in time, and a sample to finish as part of that tutorial process. So it was time to get knitting like the wind.
So I did do the changes. I'm knitting up the pattern again with the changes that I made, and it's looking a lot better. I'm not close to having it finished, and I have like 5 days to get it done. I truly enjoy knitting vintage things, and I knew that this was hard, but I made it harder on myself and everyone who volunteered for this because I did it with such a constrained timeline, and I honestly did it just to have something to work towards so that I would finally get off my butt and do it. Exciting news! I just got the final layout back from Whitney. It's the night before the pattern release and I'm exhausted. I'm gonna be honest. I was up until 4 in the morning last night, and I've been up really late the last few nights doing the last pattern reviews and edits, and I'm gonna look through this, just double check everything's okay, and then we're gonna launch the pattern. I'm gonna release it. Oh my god. This is so exciting. This is really exciting.
After all of that anxiety and stress and excitement and wonderful feedback and community support that I got, I was able to release the pattern on time. So I released it last night at around midnight. It is available for purchase. If you check the link below in the description, you can purchase it either through Ravelry or Etsy, whichever one you prefer. And this feels like one of the biggest milestones to me. I released my first sweater knitting pattern. And I hope that if you are knitting it up or you have the pattern that you are really enjoying working on it, I would love to see any and all updates. I don't post very often to Instagram, but if you tag me in things, I will see it. So if you want to tag me in that, please go ahead and do so. I would love to see what you do. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed seeing what the process is like to get a knitting pattern written up, edited, tested, and released. And very excitingly, tomorrow we are going to start day 1 of Craftmas, where I'm going to release 12 videos between tomorrow and December 24th, focusing on some of my favorite cozy crafts, heavily vintage and antique inspired. I hope to see you all then. Bye!